I want to live in a world where there is deep shame by all the people who worked in the Trump administration. Like, I want to live in a world where 25 years from now, when people, they've got a gap in their resume because they don't want to put they were part of the Trump administration on their resume.
Hello, everyone. This is JVL here with my best friends, Sarah Longwell and Tim Miller of the Bulwark. Guys, before we get started, a little bit of personal news. I have been waging, like Bill Murray in Caddyshack, a war against a bear, a very friendly bear.
Like a big, hairy gay man?
Who has been coming at our trash, which is a thing that happens in New York City. They probably get out from Central Park and they meander. Anyway, so I have employed a number of anti-bear measures on my trash cans, which have all failed. And then yesterday I went out with the big guns and I had to drill into my trash can to a lot. There are carabiners. And this morning the bear showed up, and I don't know, maybe we can even drop some video in here, but I defeated the bear. He went after the trash can and then he gave up. And as he walked back down my driveway, he looked actually dejected. And what not pictured in the video is me crotch chopping and telling him, suck it. That's right, dude.
Is the bear alive?
Opposable thumbs.
Is the bear alive?
Yeah.
He survived, though. So it's
he survived. It didn't kill him.
It's not total domination.
But I discouraged him.
I actually think JVL, what he did achieve was with the trash can, right? He didn't tangle with the bear. He let the trash can do that for him.
No, but basically I was Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant.
Yeah, okay. And this is why people need to subscribe to the Bulwark here on YouTube, because this is our counter to the manosphere. You know, we need a macho, masculine, pro-democracy podcast where somebody like JVL knows how to just do guy stuff like dominating bears and videotaping it.
That's right.
Okay, well, I didn't get anything for my gay joke. Nothing from Tim.
I made a coming joke under my breath that you missed after you made the bear comment. So I acknowledged it.
Okay,
it was good.
So great news. ICE is recruiting. The ICE website is up today with an Uncle Sam on it. They are asking for 3 classes of applicants. A little bit of Dungeons and Dragons-ish sort of thing here, where they tell you the class, the character class, and they tell you what aspects these things roll for. They're the deportation officer, for the enforcers, for the brave, for those who fight to keep America safe. There's the criminal investigator, for the protectors, for the analytical, for those who seek the truth. It doesn't say for the pussies, which is what it clearly means. And then for the general attorney, for the closers, for the resolute, for those who represent the USA. I just want to note something before we get into this. These ads feature 7 individuals who are identifiable by racial and gender markers. All 7 of them are white men. Oddly, for a recruiting pitch, not one of them features a recognizable face. I literally don't think I've ever seen any attempt to recruit people ever before which refuses to show the faces of the people who are doing the jobs currently.
They usually have a smiling person. You know, it's like a Benetton ad, smiling people of different races and genders, talking about how much they love the army, how much they've gotten out of it. You know, how much.
But that's how you get a woke army, Tim. That's how you get a woke military.
You don't want a woke army. Though this is a little woke. It's like, aren't those personality tests kind of woke? What's that called? Where you figure out if you're ESTJ. Yeah, the Myers-Briggs. Is Myers-Briggs woke or anti-woke? I don't know. But it's a little kind of like fascist Myers-Briggs a little bit on which one of these jobs you want.
I got to say, I don't think it's that weird that you can't see their faces. You won't be able to see their faces when they're doing the job. Why would you see their faces when they're advertising the job?
Rim shot.
So I went, my team brought it in on a laptop and showed this to me, and then I took it away and started to go through this thing, like all the little tabby things that they have where you can delve deeper. You have to be over 21 and under 37, and that's basically it for what
master's degree, though. It says preferred master's or graduate level degree.
So they wanted a graduate level degree, but then there's a thing somewhere else, where it's actually no degree. Oh no, it doesn't say but they do say they require an undergraduate degree, except then they're like, but also no, we don't over here. Look, there's plenty of ways. And I got to say, when I was looking at it, I was trying to think, if I didn't know that this administration would have like a real penchant for, let's say, white nationalists to join, would I think that this website seems as ridiculous as it does, like as menacing as, and I honestly don't know. Like, it is hard now to separate, like, Uncle Sam's Uncle Sam. It's not, there's nothing offensive about Uncle Sam.
He's kind of an angry Uncle Sam.
It is. And it's more the language of, like, it's the way, what's his name says war fighters all the time. It's like over intentionally, butch is the only term I can think of. Like, they're trying to make it sound, yeah, you better be a tough guy, coming in here.
Yeah, I mean, we also throw the things like such as due to the prior administration's disastrous immigration policy.
That's true. That's not usually in this stuff.
You
In
know.
the be all you can be ads, they're not saying because the last guy screwed it up so bad. Come be all you can be with us.
Because traditionally, I know this like feels quaint and such at this moment in our history, but traditionally, if you're a law enforcement agency like ICE or the FBI, you actually do want people from kind of diverse backgrounds, not just racially, but ideologically, different perspectives, people that have expertise.
Maybe some Spanish speakers.
Some Spanish speakers. Yeah.
Look at Timmy here with his DEIs.
Traditionally, that's what you do. So you wouldn't want to like turn off half of the potential applicant pool by talking about how weak all the lib cucks are, like that. Because maybe there is a Joe Biden admirer who also is really good at, I don't know, looking at evidence or, or knowing, the Guatemalan native language, Mom. You might want to bring people in with expertise, but that doesn't seem to be what they're going for here.
But it does emphasize the extent to which they expect the loyalty of this force not to be towards the law or to the United States of America. It's that there are good administrations and bad administrations. The last administration was a bad administration. We are a good administration. So you should come and put on your mask and work for us. Right? But then, like, I don't know. So all of these people who get hired when a Democratic administration comes in, if they also follow disastrous policies, well, who should these ICE agents be loyal to, guys?
And that's similar to another story that I've I feel like I've underplayed. But like, do you see the story about the 4-star generals now all have to have a personal interview with Donald Trump? Maybe that's
I didn't
nothing.
See that.
Yeah, maybe that's nothing. I know. I feel like it's kind of gotten lost in the shuffle, like some of this stuff does. Let me pull this up. It feels a little ominous. I would say, the idea that here it is. This was with Maggie. It's a New York Times story, so this is a legitimate, real news. I think Maggie and Haberman. All 4-star general nominees must now interview with President Trump. The goal is to quote ensure they are war fighters first, sir, not bureaucrats. I don't. You do kind of wonder what conversations would we have to that meeting. You remember the Comey meeting about how Donald Trump was kind of pretty, bluntly, but without trying to get himself into trouble, talking about whether Comey would be loyal to him and the importance of loyalty. And you do wonder if you get that in these conversations with the 4-star generals, which I think kind of relates to this ICE question about who these folks are loyal to, why that might be ominous if, say, the president decides he wants to do things against the law or the Supreme Court or, the democratic system.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel silly for even asking this, but since our goal is to not get into any wars, because we don't do that with this president who keeps us out of wars, and also another one of our goals is cutting all of the wasteful spending throughout the government, by their own definitions, wouldn't having bureaucrats who could help tame the Pentagon bureaucracy and cut costs be more useful than war fighters? Since my understanding is that those war fighters are just going to be kept on the shelf and not doing any actual fighting of wars under a Trump administration.
I understand that you're just asking a rhetorical question but like, I don't know, we just bombed Iran. So we might need a couple warfighters around.
Yeah, I think that there is an internal contradiction at the heart of MAGA, and one of Trump's political skills, to take your sarcastic question seriously, one of Trump's political skills has been like his vagueness and his adaptability, let's say, has allowed him to kind of appeal to people that have very different views of the world. And I think that you could find people whose views of the world are like, the U.S. should commit war crimes. Like, war crimes are good. Like, the U.S. should do everything necessary. Like, our warfighters should go and do anything necessary to take out terrorists, even if it's, a crime against humanity. And we need a real butch, tough America that executes this war fighting abroad, without being limited by stupid things like international law, right? And and there's that group, and that person really loves Donald Trump. And then I think that you have another group of people that are like, the wars recently have been stupid. Our government is managed by idiots. This is none of our business. I don't like brown people. Why should I even care about what's happening over there? Let them fight in the sand together, and we should just bring everybody home. And that person also really likes Donald Trump. And I think that he kind of in rhetoric vacillates back and forth between those two. I do think that there's a little bit of a potential opportunity politically in that latter group, I think, is starting to get a little disillusioned with Trump. And I think that kind of overlaps with the Epstein group a little bit. But yeah.
It does. Can I just because JVL, I think sometimes I will say that people think that we have TDS and we're overreacting. This is absolutely one of those issues where I feel like everybody else is underreacting. Where do you think that applications for this job are circulating?
ICE or the generals? Are you talking
ICE.
About both?
ICE.
Yeah.
But I'm talking, well, I mean, the ominous part about Trump interviewing directly the 4-star generals, that's very much on its face. Trump, it's a loyalty test. Trump wants to make sure these are acceptable people who will follow his orders. I would say, though, the ICE thing is different in that JVL sort of called it Trump building his own personal army, which I think is not a crazy position to take. But more importantly, just as a matter of, this is what I was saying about the website before, and if it hadn't been Trump, like if Trump had not said to the Proud Boys, stand back and stand by, if we didn't know that he had pardoned the January 6th attackers, but we know all those things. And so now that website, even there are parts that are obviously like him criticizing the previous administration, but then there's the parts where you're just like, this is circulating among the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys right now. Like that is who they are trying to recruit. And they're not being particularly, they're not doing anything to disabuse those people, which is why you would never put a person of color on there, because then they're like, oh, but then we won't get the right people. And the people that we want are the Oath Keepers and Proud Boys.
Yeah. There was a really good, I feel bad. Maybe I'll try to find it during when we do the commercial, whether I forget if it was New Republic or Mother Jones series back during the first Trump administration about the hiring of Border Patrol agents. And all of that stuff you said, Sarah, was like very manifest in that story. Like there was a lot of people, you're getting the wrong types of people. You're getting former police folks who had issue, who had
they got thrown out of being cops. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like that kind of thing. And that was a pretty minor in scale compared to what they're planning here for ICE. And like the amount of money that they're going to have to throw around to people. And then again, the content on the website is pretty explicit about how they're recruiting, but like Stephen Miller is posting on X, like, come work for ICE. What kinds of people are going to be replying to that,
So Garrett Graff, who's fantastic.
Garrett wrote this series.
Was it Garrett? Yeah. And when he wrote his version of the piece, what he said was that even when you're operating with the best of intentions, when you are hiring rapidly and at scale in law enforcement, it's always a shit show. Like law enforcement is one of those sectors where the personnel stuff and the culture stuff is insanely important. And when you're just trying to roust up bodies real fast, like everything always goes sideways. You wind up with unbelievable corruption. And that's even when you're trying to do it the right way. Right. And these guys are not trying to do it the right way.
It was from Mother Jones, by the way. We can put the link in the show notes for people. It's really good.
Yeah. My question for you guys is, so we saw the piece from The Guardian that was out this week about how a whole bunch of the charges that were filed against protesters in Los Angeles who had been rousted by ICE have been dropped because it turns out that the ICE agents were submitting false reports and were giving testimony that was disproven by video evidence, and in some cases didn't even have like the names of the people right or the chronology right. Should another Democratic president undergo an attempt to have accountability for every federal agent during the Trump years who submitted a false report?
We are in such a acute crisis place right now that like it's hard to even think about this sort of stuff. And these conversations will all be things that'll come up during the campaign. But anytime this comes up, I forget, I was in a separate conversation about this recently. Like anytime this comes up, it's like the scale of that problem. And like if we get through our present troubles and get to a place in 2029 or 2033 where there's a Democratic president, the remaking of the bureaucracy, like, you know, and this is, I think I was talking about it from the concept of like the foreign aid. Like, do you start USAID again? Like, can you? Like, is that even
why do it right?
Effort?
Knowing that they'll be just canceled in 4 years.
So that's like one question. But then the other question is, how do you handle the people that have come in, you know, without doing what Trump did, like without doing a Schedule F kind of Project 2025 thing of your own, where you're getting rid of people that were brought in who have malintent, who didn't want to follow the law. And this ties in a little bit to the Emile Bove thing, which we might get into. This guy who's a total disaster, who's just confirmed as a judge. Like what, like, let's say he had stayed in the government. Like, what do you do with people like that? Right. What do you do with
Kash Patel? Yeah. Should Kash Patel be fired as director of the FBI?
Right. And then you take it all the way down. Yeah. And then you take it all the way down to what about the random agents though? Like now, do you become the baddies, right? Who is like, right, you know how Dan Bongino and Kash Patel are going after the people that investigated January 6th, and that's bad and wrong, but should then a Democratic administration go after the people that were part of the ICE?
There's two separate questions in here, and if we can just quick pull them apart, because I think they're slightly different. I feel very strongly that the leadership, and this we'll talk about this later too, because this is a big part of what I think of when I think about accountability. Do I want to hunt down every rank and file person? Probably not. What you want is a massive culture change. And that's going to start at the top. And so for people like Bove, who he lied to Congress when he testified. Himself. He said that Trump doesn't have to abide by court orders. Like that guy's got to go. Like these are not people who are loyal to the Constitution. They've demonstrated that. And so at the top, I think Dan Bongino was not qualified for that position to begin with. There's not a point. There are ways in which I think somebody could come in and say, a Democrat, let's say, and again, also JPL's in best case scenario here. Like the idea that we are sitting here doing a planning exercise around this is what happens when we're in charge and not them, or like Democrats or responsible people.
We should be so lucky.
We should be so lucky. And I think that you quickly should not orient yourself toward sort of widespread retribution, but like, what do you do to correct a corrupted culture? And for me, a lot of that begins at the top. And then I think you go from there. But I don't know that I actually think this was one of the mistakes of January 6th and accountability is I think that they focused too much. And I said this at the time, I wrote a piece about it because I was like, man, they're going to go after all these randos who like went in there and like they are accountable for their actions and they should not have done it, whatever. But like, they're not going to go after the people who fomented this insurrection, who told the lie that brought these people there. And I just think accountability's got to start at the top.
Thanks, Merrick Garland. All right. I guess we have to talk about Jeffrey Epstein stuff because it's another week.
Why do you act like that's a burden?
Yeah, why do you? What's wrong with you, man?
It feels a little bit of a burden. You're tired. A little bit of a burden. I don't know. Maybe this is just me worrying that we're all getting our hopes up. So I am very excited to see how the Ghislaine Maxwell pardon dance goes, because I feel like that's the direction we're heading in.
Do you think it'll be a joint pardon with Diddy? you see the news? They're
Why
strongly
not?
considering a
Right?
Diddy
I mean,
pardon.
why wouldn't Diddy get pardoned? That's it. Like, obviously,
Why
he's
would
gonna
he? Would be
pardon him.
another question. But sure. Also, why wouldn't he?
Because he's a
They
fan.
both-
Why not do Chef Jeff too, right? And Sleepy Hollow. Like, why not pardon those guys? I guess because those are state.
Is Chef Jeff a sex criminal?
No, it's not Chef. It's Chef G, I think. It's
Oh,
Sleepy
you're
Hollow.
talking about SHEFF.
No.
Chef G, the rapper.
Yeah, Chef G the rapper. I think the reason they can't be pardoned is because those are state charges, not federal charges. But yeah, why can't Diddy? Why not? Why not just do all of them? Right? Because you could do favors for people and then people owe you.
Yeah, I have some stray observations on this.
Please.
One is, I think it's funny that JVL is against hope. Like he's just like, I don't want to get our hopes up. JVL's anti-hope. Okay, that's fine. That tracks. I just had this thought the other day that the term rape culture was like a thing that got thrown around a lot kind of during the Me Too era, where I was like, like it wasn't something that I just like grabbed onto, like, yes, I think this is right. But I was thinking, what is a young woman to make of a world in which a guy who was publicly talked about sexually assaulting women and that his fame allowed him to get away with it, who was constantly walking in on women at beauty pageants, who had all kinds of young women around, who divorced, all of his wives and slept with prostitutes and paid them off, whatever. When you elect that guy president twice, he's close friends with somebody who was at the head of the most notorious pedophile ring. He pardons, let's say he pardons Diddy, pardons Ghislaine, who was doing the recruiting for this. Like, I don't know. I that's a really toxic environment for women to grow up in.
You might say a rape culture.
It might say a rape culture.
Yeah.
I mean, he this guy has been an adjudicated sexual assaulter, and people are like, that's cool. And like, yeah, just, oh, well. And so it goes to the Jeffrey Epstein. Now let's get into Jeffrey Epstein. I know it feels like a burden, JVL, but not to me. Not to me.
Good. This is why there are three of us.
I want to know who killed him. Right? I mean, I'm like in true crime.
Did you read that CBS story?
I'm in true crime mode. Did I read the CBS story? I was diagramming every sentence of the CBS story about what was happening with the Epstein video.
It was Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan killed him.
So here's what I'm interested in from you guys. Trump has made some very strange statements over the last couple days. And not the least of which is how he views the people who are in his employ. He refers to them the help. Just like, man, okay. But I mean, his sins are so many that one's not so terrible, but it was crazy to have him saying, but his point is that he says he changed the story. So he and his people who defend him on Epstein, one of the things they hold on to, this is in my mentions, this is in people yelling at me when I go after him. They're like, Trump kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago because he was a creep. And you're like, no, he didn't. Actually, there's a real explanation, and it's because they got in a fight over property. Okay, so that was their falling out. They had a falling out because they got in a fight over a property. Well documented. Trump has changed that story this week. Like, now that we're talking about this.
Really convenient, great story for him, by the way. If you're just going to lie and make up a story, it was a good one to stick with.
So this makes no sense to me. It is pretty wild. He says now that Jeffrey Epstein was trying to steal the help. And the help. Well, there was a person who was recruited at the age of 15.
16.
She was 60. Are you sure?
100%. Yeah, I literally just read it.
Okay, hold on. Was she 16 when she started working at Mar-a-Lago? Or was she was 16 when she started working at Mar-a-Lago?
Maybe. I don't know how old she was when she started working at Mar-a-Lago. When Ghislaine Maxwell recruited her from Mar-a-Lago, she was 16 at that time. Yeah.
So, okay. So I read somewhere 15, but let's just take 16. Let's be, the idea. So she is employed at Mar-a-Lago as like an attendant. And so like, okay, I guess maybe at these clubs, like you get high school aged people who work there in the summer. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
you think about it as like a caddy. Like, yeah, sure, there's 16-year-old golf caddies at the clubs. I don't know what a 16. Yeah, like I did that. I was terrible at it, so I did it for like 1 week. But people, when they're in high school, worked as golf caddies. Or like on the landscaping or whatever. What do you do in the spa at age 16? I also found that strange and creepy, kind of. But like literally, I don't know. I think maybe there's a normal thing to do. I can't
like a locker attendant. That was her job. So like, okay, but this is where Ghislaine meets her, and the story is that she's reading a book on physical therapy or massages, and Ghislaine basically says, we will pay for you to go to get certified, and if you come over at us. But as best I can tell, this is the person that Trump is talking about when he says they stole the help. And here's, I want to throw this out. This is my theory of the case right now. We all know, like, this is not a conspiracy. This is Occam's razor. This is like, what is the most obvious explanation for all this? The most obvious explanation is that Trump and Jeffrey had known each other since they were in their 30s and 40s, had been partying around a lot of young girls and a lot of young women, and been doing all of that stuff. And then Trump balked over Epstein taking one of these young women, into like stealing them from him into the employ of Jeffrey Epstein. But remember he also said something about being a creep, but that means that he knew, like, best case scenario for Trump absolutely knew what Jeffrey Epstein was doing and was annoyed that he was doing it to his people. That's best case scenario. Worst case scenario is Trump and Epstein had been doing this together for a long time, and Trump got annoyed at that, but actually the reason that they broke up was because Trump was starting to, like, Jeffrey Epstein, it was like a year later, he gets hit with sex trafficking charges. So like that stuff's probably in the water, right? People know.
Yeah, that timeline's a little off. Unfortunately, again, I've been diagramming the sentences.
No, but it's not so far off. So go ahead. You say.
Well, but here's part of the problem is that I guess there's another potential theories that, which I would offer. I don't know where this would fit on your trajectory of best case to worst case, but like that's the year 2000 that Virginia gets stolen, as Trump calls it. Stolen from
Why would he know? Kind of like, if Donald Trump is a billionaire, why would he know the HR of what's going on with 16-year-old high school spa attendants?
That's a great question. Why would he know that? Also, like, again, it's like Trump is talking about her as if she's his property. Like, it was stolen from me. But again,
this isn't like a general counsel. This isn't like Jeffrey Epstein stole Michael Cohen from him. Right.
So wait, 2000 is when Virginia is, and then in 2002, Trump says, I've known Jeffrey 15 years. He's a terrific guy. That's when that quote comes out. So 2 years after the Virginia thing happens, and then it's 2004 when they have the falling out. You're right, Tim.
That he claims. But then he was still a member until 2007. Who knows? So okay, but like that. So to me, what that says is that Trump's making this up, or that he's wrong in his memory. He doesn't remember this that accurately, and that he's like whatever. He's just kind of BSing. But like, his story seems not true. And so to me, the revealing thing about this here's my Occam's razor on this. Trump has been accused credibly of many sex crimes. Trump hangs out with a lot of people that have been accused of sex crimes. Trump and his coterie of sex criminals don't like it when there's news coverage about their actions. And so Trump has a deep sympathy for the people who get accused of sex crimes. He does not have any sympathy for sex criminal or sex crime victims, or he thinks about them at all, really. And so in this case, like, part of the reason why he's covering it up is because he's in there. I think part of the reason he's covering it up because he like feels some sort of bond with other people that are sex criminals or sex criminal or have been accused of that, and he doesn't want them to have to go through this. And then in this case with Epstein, and he's talking about this, like he thinks back on it, he's like, the thing I'm most upset about is that Jeffrey was taking women from my staff, and that like the victim here is me, and like I think that is really it. I think that's what's happening.
Yeah. I mean, you just said that sort of better than I did, but it is that, but that is, and sorry, and I'm going to correct my timeline just to be clear that I did, because I had it in front of me, but I wasn't looking at it. So in 2000, Virginia Giuffre is approached by Ghislaine Maxwell at Mar-a-Lago. Trump doesn't dispute that, right? That was where this woman was taken from. Trump said, I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people. Yeah, he stole her. That was what Trump just said. So then in 2002, so 2 years after that happened, Trump says, I've known Jeff for 15 years. Terrific guy. And then in 2004, Trump and Epstein, that's when they reportedly had their falling out. And Trump is saying that it was also about Jeffrey stealing the help. And so a reporter asked him yesterday, you said yesterday that your falling out with Jeffrey Epstein was over him taking some of your workers, but your administration in the past said you threw him out because he was a creep. And Trump said, maybe they're the same thing, you know? And then the reporter said, were some of the workers that were taken from you by Epstein young women? Trump, I don't want to say, but the story's been pretty well out there, and the answer is yes. And then he goes, okay, and then he goes on to say, people were taken out of the spa, hired by Epstein. I told him, we don't want you taking our people, whether it's spa or not spa. He did it again. I said, out of here. So he says that's in 2004, right? Or he said that's like 2004 is when they say they had their falling out. This is what he is saying it was over, which would be three. This is where his timeline doesn't match up. Like I was getting confused because his timeline doesn't make any sense.
No.
Because it's 2000 when she gets recruited. It's 2002 when Trump's still saying he's a terrific guy. And then now he's saying the falling out was over that, which I think he's trying to get out from under the Virginia thing somehow. And he's accidentally making himself more complicit. But here's the key part. In 2005, so that's a 5-year span from 2000 to 2005. And that's when the first criminal investigation into Epstein for paying a 14-year-old for a massage. And a federal prosecutor said during that case that the abuse began as early as 2002. So like the level of closeness here is unbelievable. And like the fact that the women that Jeffrey Epstein was abusing, at least one of them, came from Mar-a-Lago, who Trump knew, who he claims to like know about to this day and be upset about. This is really bizarre. No, it's not bizarre.
Be upset that she was taken from.
Yes.
That she was stolen from him. Not upset.
Not that she was abused, because this woman also killed herself a year ago. That's the other. She killed herself a year ago.
If there is, how far out on a limb would you have to be to say that one possible reading of this is that Trump didn't want this 16-year-old attendant taken away from him because she was his? Like, it just doesn't. Again, I am stuck on the idea
there's reason
to
believe that is not true because Virginia's talked a lot.
She has talked a lot.
She's I think
because
she's named a lot of people.
Stuck on the what? Why would this titan of industry, this billionaire, know about? And if he knew about, why would he care that a high school age employee, like part-time employee, this was not a full-time job, right? Somebody who's doing like 8 hours a week at the spa goes and works for somebody else. That does not make any sense to me. Am I stuck on the wrong thing?
No. I think it's interesting. I mean, I like the whole thing. This is why I don't get tired of talking about this. Like the whole thing is like there's more to know, right? And it's just is it reflected in what Trump is covering up? Is it? I don't know. I mean, I think that there's a wide range of potential options. I guess is what I'd say. If you have been consuming too much Epstein material yourself and it's having an impact on your mental health, let me tell you, we've got a sponsor I'd like to talk to you about. This is an ad by BetterHelp. These days, it feels like there's advice for everything. Cold plunges. Why would you do that? Gratitude journals, screen detoxes. But how do you know what actually works for you? With the internet and information overload about mental health and wellness, it can be a struggle to know what's true and what actions to take these days. Using trusted resources and talking to live therapists can get you personalized recommendations and help you break through the noise. I know that therapy's helped me in the past to break through the noise. You might have heard. I have a phone addiction myself. So it is nice to have an hour where the phone is away. You're talking to a therapist. This is also not part of the ad sponsorship, but also a nice part about going to the gym. I was asking myself recently, I was like, why am I in this class? Go to a ladies weightlifting class. It's almost entirely ladies besides me. And the answer, I was like, I could just do this at home. And the answer is I actually couldn't do it at home because I need to put my phone away. I need to have my phone locked away. I'm essentially paying her to guard my phone for 45 minutes so that I can exercise without checking the internet. Anyway, you can do this for your mental health as well as your physical health, and you can use it using our sponsor, BetterHelp. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Talk it out with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/thenextlevel. That's betterhelp.com/thenextlevel. And I would tell you which gym I go to because they do a great job, but that would be weird. And I don't want to imagine podcast listeners watching me lift my little baby weights. So unfortunately, that is one endorsement I cannot provide.
Are we done with Jeffrey Epstein?
I think so.
Okay. Pam Bondi this week has announced that she has filed a formal complaint and request for censure against Judge Boasberg. This has happened while yesterday Emile Bove was confirmed to a lifetime appointment on the Third Circuit. It just seems to me that we are operating in like just another asymmetry. And I don't know what to do about it. And this is, again, like, should Democrats, if they ever attain power again, should they try to have Bove removed from the bench?
Absolutely.
Or would people say, oh, no, you got to focus on kitchen table and issues? Nobody cares. Out there in America, nobody cares about Emile Bove. How are you going to explain that? It looks like overreach, and you're going to let them grandstand. You should be working on rural broadband.
No, it's true that voters don't care about Emile Bove, which is a perfectly good reason to, like, they're not going to care when the Josh, what's his name from Pennsylvania?
Josh Shapiro.
Josh Shapiro.
I was off thinking, we're just spitballing. Who knows? Maybe North Carolina Governor Josh Stein might be.
No. Shapiro. Who, whatever. I'm not going to go on a whole Shapiro thing. But when Shapiro is president, if he wants to get rid of Emile Bove, he should. This guy is absolutely totally unqualified for this job. The Senate has totally abdicated its responsibility, and voters will not care about it whatsoever. But it will pay long-term dividends for our democracy, because what Trump is doing right now, I cannot believe Senate Republicans approved this guy.
It's astonishing. I mean, maybe it shouldn't be, right? They confirmed Tulsi Gabbard. They confirmed.
It's still astonishing even
Kennedy.
for them, because here's the thing: like, there was real. This is not an excuse; it's an explanation. There was real political pressure on them to confirm the Trump cabinet. Trump had just won. It's like he should get to put his own people in there. When I went to that TPUSA thing in December, that was like the whole talking points. They had big signs up, confirmed Trump's cabinet. So you can understand that there's like a political pressure and imperative to do it. Now, they shouldn't have. They should have resisted that. Many of them, are either retiring in the case of Mitch McConnell, and he did vote against a couple of them, or they're not up for 6 years. If you're Davos Dave McCormick, for example, and just got elected and want to be a responsible person, you could just vote no. You're 6 years away from having an election. But anyway, there at least it was some legitimate pressure. There's no political pressure to confirm Emile Bove to the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. Like that, like regular voters don't care about this. Republican voters don't care about this. There's a small coterie of people that will tweet you on X who are super sickos who might be mad at you, but you can just ignore those people because they don't have any meaningful political power. This guy, like, you can just go listen to my Ben Wittes interview from last week if you want to go to the details. But like this guy, inside the Trump administration, there were multiple whistleblowers who are conservative, who are other Trump appointees, right? Like not the deep state people, like Trump people who are like, this guy told us not to follow the law, not to ignore judges' orders. And now he wants to be a judge. This guy told us to get rid of documents and not take notes on the criminal conspiracy of helping out Eric Adams. It is insane to then, after these whistleblower reports, put this guy on the court. There's no political imperative. And I just want to call out two people in particular. Mitch McConnell, is retiring. His brain is freezing, and claims that he cares about the institutions. And one of his big things about respecting the Senate was about the judicial nominations and how important this is. Why would he support this? He has no imperative. What about Tom Tillis? I thought didn't Tom Tillis give an interview 2 weeks ago where he was like, I'm not going to be one of those weak Mitt Romney opponents to Trump. If Trump comes for me, I'm going to really stand up to him. I'm going to have balls in my attack on Trump. Why would Tom Tillis want to support this man to the court? It is a totally absurd nomination. On its face, he's not qualified. He is clearly, at some level, criminal or not interested in respecting the rule of law. And they confirmed him 50-49.
Sarah, I want to throw the absurdity to you here. So again, we have on one hand Emile Bove, who among other things, including perjuring himself during his Senate testimony, has told government lawyers not to follow justices, not to follow judicial rulings, and not to follow the rule of law. But then you have Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, who in her complaint against Judge Boasberg says that what he has done that requires censure is that in a closed-door judicial meeting, when the Chief Justice, John Roberts, asked the assembled 20 judges, hey, so what concerns are top of mind for you? Judge Boasberg said, well, I'm a little concerned that the Trump administration will defy court rulings and won't follow the law.
And why did he say that? Why did he say that? Do you remember? It's because he's the one who ordered the planes to come back from El Salvador, and they said no. So
you have the Attorney General saying this judge who said he's worried about these things should be censured, and also you must confirm this guy who says he wants to do the things that the other judge said.
Did you read her tweet? Did you read her? She said, today at my direction, which, by the way, anything Pam Bondi does right now should just be looked at as misdirection from the Epstein stuff. So just today, my direction, the Justice Department filed a misconduct complaint against U.S. District Court Chief Judge James Boasberg for making improper public comments about President Trump and his administration. This is unbelievably scary stuff. These comments have undermined the integrity of the judiciary, and we will not stand for that.
No.
We will not stand for the integrity of the judiciary. And then they nominate. So she's going after Boasberg, who she perceives as a political enemy. And the thing about Bove is he's an errand boy. He's a political appointee being given a life appointment as a judge right now. The reason you can remove him is that he is beyond unqualified for this job. He has disqualified himself from this job with this behavior.
You have to impeach him. He's going to require 2/3 in the Senate, right? I mean, getting rid of him is a heavy, heavy lift.
They might get it once Trump's. I mean, maybe you're right. You're right. It's a heavy, heavy lift. I don't know. I don't know where all this is going. I shouldn't be Pollyannish about it, but the people who fashion themselves, Cassidy,
responsible.
This is where. Do not tell me they're Murkowski and Collins are the only people who voted no. Okay, so I'll just give them some grudging kudos, I guess. But it shouldn't be. This is an obvious one. This is so outside of any norm.
He lied during his testimony. You could just do it based on pure senatorial privilege. How dare this guy come in and lie to us? Right? He's
also the one. You know who else he is? He's the one who dismissed the charges against Eric Adams for political reasons.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who said that they should be. He dismissed the prosecutors and the FBI agents who investigated Trump and the January 6th riots, right? Yep. I mean, he didn't denounce January 6th. And he said he wouldn't rule out a third term for Trump. Every Republican should have voted against him. What's the point of somebody moderate?
I just want to take your temperature on this, Sarah. And I know you're going to say no, but I'm going to take your temperature on this once a month for the next 3.5 years, I think.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 10, Where are you on Supreme Court expansion as of today, July 30? Okay, but a scale of 1 to 10. Like how far
0.
against?
Well,
0.
is 10 the highest? That's not a temperature.
Let's call 10. Let's call 10 at the level at which you're like, oh, maybe we should do this, and 0 the level of absolutely not, never, no way, no how.
Absolutely not. We do not need to expand the court. Okay. We need to put term limits on, but not expand it.
Well,
I do.
We'll check in another month and another month after that, because I think by 2028 we're going to get you there.
Yeah, I just want, on the dark 2029 stuff, I do also want to just say, like, listening to the Pam Bondi element of this, there's also a part of this that I don't know how you can put the genie back in the bottle on some of the rule of law stuff in this country, and I hope they can. I don't want to be a total fatalist, but it's like Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, is just doing total kayfabe to make the Hulk Hogan thing. It's like it's all ridiculous. Like their stuff is based on nothing. Words have no meaning. They're just like, we have to go after this judge because he's politicizing things when he's the one that's not politicizing things, and they are. And I think it becomes very challenging to kind of revert back to a place where, you know, people kind of respect, you know, the normal course of business.
Boy, do I have a newsletter coming for you in about an hour's time, Timothy.
Can I just tell you, it is not, I'm not against adding people to the courts just on a norms basis. I'm not saying that's not part of it, but that is not my primary thing. I just don't think I don't think it works the way you intend it to work. I think it becomes a tit for tat type thing. It's not and it ends up
be the end of the court. Really,
it would be the end of the court.
We're already at a tit for nothing, right? I mean, we're at a point where Republicans just steal seats, and there are no.
Like, do you still think a Supreme Court is worth having in the country? And if so, like, what are the ways to preserve and or not preserve at this point, but to reinstitute its role in our society, which is, I think, deeply important. I mean, deeply important. And I think the way that you do that is with term limits. And that's, I mean, I do not think you do it by.
Well, for complicated reasons, getting to term limits is harder than expanding the number of seats. And so if the question is, term limits are not achievable, you can't do them. So you can either do nothing or you can expand the court.
I don't grant you that.
Well, okay, but so don't grant it for me, but just play along with me. Okay. And, you know, what if I say actually doing term limits requires amending the Constitution and a bunch of other things that simply can't happen for practical reasons. But like with adding states, making DC a state, expanding the court is a thing that you can do with a fairly simple majority. Again, you can't. It's a little more complicated than that, but just play along with me. So the choices are do nothing or expand the court.
Do nothing. I do think you end the court with expansion.
Okay. I'm not sure I grant that. I need to hear your further thoughts on how that happens. All right. Moving along. Tim, you teased me in Slack about the FY pod this week.
Oh, yeah.
And I need a little more from you. Tell me what's going on.
It's really something. We've taped it already, so it's coming out on Saturday. I don't have a team like Sarah does that admonishes me if I tease things that are coming, so I can just do it without fear of admonishment or retribution, which is nice. We invited the kids. So it was Medi versus the 20 Nazis. Turns out it was really like 14 Nazis and like 6 other people that identified as far right conservatives, and
not so bad.
Yeah, and if you didn't watch the thing, like the way it goes is that the kids run up and then they get to argue with Medi for a little while, and then the other kids in the circle get to vote them out when they're like, your argument is boring and we want to move on to the next kid, basically. So there was kind of one sort of potentially interesting conversation we didn't get to know. There's a guy who was a DACA kid who identified as a far-right conservative who went up to talk to Medi, and they had a pretty earnest conversation for about 48 seconds about like how his parents came here illegally and how he has more complex views on this stuff. And then everyone voted him off before we got to hear, like, why is this guy a far-right conservative? Like, why is he here in the first place? How did he find himself here? And so we invited him on because I was like, I want to do a full hour with this person to just see, like, what maybe his eyes were opened by the fact that he was in a room and he thought he was a far-right conservative, and then he heard that 10 of the people in the room wanted all immigrants to go home and wanted to talk about how they smelled and how they're terrible and how they like Hitler. So anyway, we had the conversation. It was very nice. People should listen to it, though kind of gets derailed because turns out he's a far-right conservative because he is a Christian nationalist and a born-again Christian, and he wanted to convert Mehdi and then Cam and me to the faith and ensuring that Jesus is our Lord and Savior. So we explored that. We explored maybe some of the limits of Trumpism within the context of Christianity and Jesus' teachings and Christian nationalism, and I think people should listen to that.
Question.
Yeah.
Did he understand that his fellow Christian nationalists want their Christian nationalism without him in it?
Didn't kind of. It didn't seem like he fully had thought all through the implications of all of that, but definitely I think that he was aware that it seemed like there was a disconnect, but not really to your satisfaction. Probably, I guess is all I'll say.
Wow,
it's interesting.
Do you play good twink, bad twink with him?
We don't play good twink, bad twink this week.
Okay.
Though Cameron is obviously the bad twink, which was an inverse for the Zoran interview because I was trying to engage with this young man in good faith, and Cameron's frustration with him was pretty palpable over the course of the episode. But anyway, I don't know. The one potentially, besides kind of like the disaster porn of it, which I think people should enjoy in this moment, I do think there's an interesting, because we talked to that Carlos Espina a couple weeks ago, the Hispanic TikTok influencer, and I was trying to get to that. I'm like, why do you think that Hispanics went for Trump more? And like the Christian stuff does come up a lot. Mm-hmm. And I do think that the Democrats maybe understand, and this is somebody who is lapsed Catholic, deep doubts about the Christian faith and mission. But for whatever it's worth, just to be strategic about everything, his point was like, yeah, a lot. And
Obama seems to have gone to church.
And Biden did. And it's kind of like, you get people do immediately go, and I obviously think there's some misogyny and stuff. They immediately go to the gender stuff with Hillary and Kamala, but like there wasn't really an effort to even kind of like pretend they were Christian. I think a lot of past presidents pretended the extent of their faith, for example, and a lot of politicians do, honestly. And I think the Democrats kind of quit doing that a while ago, potentially to their detriment, because one of the other things we get into it in both those episodes is like, well, the Republicans are just faking it. And like, yeah, that's true. But like for some people, having a pastor there and faking it is better than feeling like they are not, whatever, mocked or whatever. So anyway, those are my thoughts. I don't know, Sarah, if you have any thoughts on
that. My only thing is that having listened to a lot of Hispanic voters and the Christian thing does come up a ton. And it comes up across voters on the right more often all the time. And what you hear on the left, right, is a condemnation of Christian nationalism, which is a pretty specific thing, but which does feel like an attack on a lot of people who maybe they hear the Christian part more than they hear the nationalism part, or they don't really understand. Like people are kind of talking about different things.
And to be fair, it was unclear if this kid really understood what Christian nationalism was. Like he called himself a Christian nationalist, and I don't know that his definition of that would be the same as like the New York Times.
What they mean, so what people think they mean is they're like, I am a patriot who's also a Christian, is like sort of what they mean.
Yeah.
They don't realize that it means like, I want to get rid of Jews and other
I would like to offer a perspective to you both.
Please.
As somebody who is more churched than either of you.
Significantly more. When was the last time you were in church?
A few days ago.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So I do not believe people who say that, I really respond to the Christian message put out by Donald Trump, but I didn't respond to the Christian message put out by Barack Obama or Joe Biden. I don't believe that. I don't believe it is about Democrats not talking about it. And I say this because as somebody who is around a lot of intensely conservative Christians, their deepest antipathies are not for atheists and agnostics. It's for liberal Christians. like Christians who they believe are not real Christians, or who are, who belong to like the wrong version of the Gospels. That's who they really hate. Like that's who really grinds their gears. And so I think this stuff it's not like, oh, Democrats haven't done a good enough job about talking. It wouldn't matter. Whatever they would talk about, the Christian nationalist types are going to hate them.
Yeah, maybe on the margins though, for among like Hispanic folks who are not that people you're talking about, but they just like are church going Hispanics and want the president to also like Jesus. I don't know.
Well,
I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Like even to JVL's point though, which I think is sort of anecdotal, and I do not think is I would not take that as a broad theory of the case.
Totally true.
However, I think that I did a bunch of groups where we asked some of these questions and we read the responses. So I asked a bunch of Trump voting Republicans whether or not Democrats could be Christians. And they said, no, they can't. Joe Biden can't be a Christian because they believe in things like gay marriage, that men can play in women's sports. Like they kind of rattle off a number of things that they're like, well, this is the antithesis of what Christianity is.
This is why Raphael Warnock never comes up in 2028 stuff. But that would be kind of an interesting political science experiment.
Yeah.
To have like a literal pastor run and to see if it gets any better or worse. I think, JVL's theory is probably where I'm at, where like probably doesn't actually help that much. But I'm not willing to say I'm 100% sure.
No, but you know where it's going to help is in North Carolina right now, where you've got Roy Cooper running for Tillis's seat.
Yeah.
And he may very well win it. And when I was listening to Roy Cooper talked about praying on this decision. And a lot of it is, and this is why I think JVL's not quite right about, I think you are talking about people who are deeply faithful, and I'm talking about Christianity as a cultural signifier.
Maybe.
And I think that Christianity is a cultural signifier. Like, I think there's a lot of people who use the language of prayer and who are, and maybe they go to church, or maybe they just go to church sometimes, or like they grew up in the church, but they don't really go anymore. But it is almost a linguistic code for one of my people. And so I think that matters.
Joe Biden talked a lot about that stuff.
And Joe Biden won.
Nancy Pelosi talked a lot about that stuff. Okay. So I wanted to talk about something. We don't do this very often, but I wanted to do a book club on this gigantic Bloomberg profile of a kid, Luke Ferrator. Luke Ferrator is one of Elon Musk's Doge geniuses, and this profile is like 6,000 words, and it's quite good and interesting. And I don't think it's really representative of anything general, but is highly representative of like a very specific kind of elite figure in America right now. And I guess I'll tee it up by just sort of setting the table here. This kid grew up in Nebraska. He is the child of almost unimaginable privilege. His father is a professor. His mother is a physician. He was identified as a boy genius basically by age 12. He had every possible opportunity in the world shoveled in front of him. He was given entree to an incredibly prestigious program at the University of Nebraska, a public college, the kind of thing that Mark Andreessen had just assured us a few short weeks ago was simply impossible and no longer existed in the world. And he is just passed along so quickly up the food chain that by the time he's 21 years old, before he even graduates from college, he has, Peter Thiel giving him $100,000 fellowships, every Silicon Valley tech titan trying to get him to work for him. I mean, he just has money and privilege being shoveled at him hand over fist. And he winds up going to work for Doge, where he is part of things like destroying USAID. And it turns out that this kid who is unbelievably privileged and is clearly very, very smart about engineering is very, very stupid about everything else, like philosophy, politics, religion. And it turns out that he's basically a walking cliche. Like there's where he is an interesting thinker when it comes to electrical engineering or circuitry. When you ask him to think about any other subject, he sounds like literally every other person you meet on Twitter. And as if his entire, who does he think is smart? Jordan Peterson. Who are his heroes? Elon Musk and Mark Andreessen. Like, he's just a walking cliche. Who's his favorite economist? Tyler Cowen. Of course.
I like Tyler Cowen.
Yeah. Sure you do.
I think there's a paragraph in here that jumped out to me as sort of revealing of JVL's point here. When a former friend posted an article critical of Ferriter and Doge on Instagram, Ferriter replied with a meme of a crying baby and the caption, "When the corrupt elites can't access USAID anymore." So, like, I don't know. I was instinctually wanted to be sympathetic to him because the kid is kind of amazing. I honestly, like, in the other space, I think he almost underplayed it. Like, frankly, like his like what he did with the scrolls, figured out an AI to figure out how to read ancient scrolls, and he worked on an art project that's like pretty impressive. And like there's several other elements of his backstory that are like, it was super impressive. And so to me, the lesson is less like he doesn't have interesting takes, but about like how easy it is for people in this world to get co-opted into doing extremely dark things. I mean, like this guy, like you mentioned, he's at the University of Illinois or Nebraska, excuse me. Andreessen went to Illinois, Nebraska, and part of this computer science program that has this funding from the government. And among the other things they cut was like the National Science Foundation. And among the other things that Doge cut was literally the program that was funded, the funding for the program that was giving out the awards for the scrolls. So like he cut the program that he had benefited from.
Well, because he had gotten it.
You're right. So all of that stuff takes you to a place where it's like, I mean, I didn't have a great judgment at 23. I think that you can see how people get sucked up into this stuff, but it's pretty you could imagine. I guess my main thought about this is like you can imagine like a good angel version of all this. Technologist Elon Musk goes into the government and brings in a bunch of wonder kids, and they figure out how to make things more efficient, actually, or they figure out how to use AI tools to fund projects like the ones that he worked on that advance scientific findings beyond anything that we had in the past. And they didn't do that. And I think it would probably be good and incumbent upon opponents of this regime to, instead of just totally mocking this program and saying that these guys are all little white nationalist fucks, which they are, to say that, and also to say it would be really cool if the government could actually do good things again, and like we actually found really smart people around the world and brought them into the government and focused on doing good rather than focused on tearing down. I guess that'd be my thought. It's an unpleasant story to read.
Yeah, look, my main takeaway is that there is a reason that people who often are doing immoral things use very young people to do the work. And it is because they are too excited and blinded by, like this guy, Elon Musk is one of his heroes. He wants to go work next to Elon Musk. He doesn't know, he's not stupid. He just doesn't know jack about the world. He knows nothing. He's never thought about USAID for 5 seconds. But
he's never traveled outside the world. Is one of the anecdotes of the story.
Outside the country, right? So this is what you do, and this goes back, and this is why I was preempting this a little bit before. The adults, when you are a young person in a new job, you look at the adults around you to teach you how things are done. And if you move into a world very young, where the Peter Thiels of the world and the Elon Musks of the world are like, go ahead, bro, go tear it down. Like, I blame the grown-ups. He is, there's a phrase, you're old enough to know better. He's not quite old enough to know better. Not about these big complicated issues. Man. JVL.
He can go to war. He can vote. Sure. I'm sorry.
No. I think the idea, the blame for these things, like they use young people. I'm not saying he's not accountable for what he's doing. I'm just saying that there are people a lot more accountable than the 23-year-old who's getting his head turned by all of the oh my gosh, I'm right next to Elon Musk, and Elon Musk is telling me this is my job. Like, there's a reason that a lot of the people who do, they enlist really young people because they're not fully formed enough to totally be able to evaluate the moral implications of what they're doing. They just want the people above them to tell them that they're doing a good job.
I strong disagree. One of the hallmarks of this piece is this kid's disinterest in authority figures. And so, like, he doesn't even especially want to go to this program at Nebraska that he gets into that's so special. He doesn't do a lot of the work there because it bores him. He does his own work. He doesn't seem to really care what teachers think about him. So it isn't that he's like, his head is just turned by attention. His head only seems to get turned when it's Elon Musk asking him to do evil things. You know, he is happy to shirk other assignments.
I mean, the other shit he was doing before was not evil. Like the scrolls, the guitars, the art, that wasn't evil. Like, so he worked on that.
Those were things he wanted. The guitars and the scrolls were projects that he wanted to work on. And he seems to have been resistant to doing what he viewed as like assignment work. And so the USAID stuff must have been something that he wanted to do. Because you look in his past life, again, which is like the 10 months before he went to take this job, he had avoided doing just like assigned work. He only did work that seemed meaningful to him. That's one of the hallmarks, that he's not easily impressed by authority, but he was impressed by Elon Musk, and he was impressed by Peter Thiel and Mark Andreessen, and he did seem to want to do the work of dismantling USAID. I gotta say, and I sort of blame his parents on this too. One of the anecdotes in this is his father gave a TED talk, a TEDx talk, the title of which was, I may have it wrong, but it's something like, don't measure, cut twice. The idea was, all these things about measuring twice, cut once, those are for bad thinkers, people who don't do things in the world. You just gotta go out and do stuff. That's how you do things. You do things by doing things. And I don't know, man. Like, somebody who contributes to pulling down a program which is going to cause probably like 13 million excess deaths over the coming decade, like, that seems close to war criminal status. Like, I just don't.
Well, color me in between war criminal and just a boy. I'll find some space in between there. I guess I just say one thing. The war criminal thing. I don't know. But he should be shamed. I agree with Sarah that the accountability should be people at the top. But there is this thing in our culture now where it's like, if in 3 years from now he's out there in the world and wants to go to some to do some fabulous thing, and some person says, actually no, you can't be on this board. It's like the least Stefanik thing. You're banned from the Harvard board or whatever. I don't care if you've been here. Like, no, you can't come to this party, or can't be on this board, or you can't do this. And just because your past actions are too noxious, there'll be a group of people, many people, that will come to his defense, be like, this is stupid. This is liberal cancel culture. This is, finger wagging. And that is the part where I don't agree. I think that you learn, like, he should learn by, there should be shunning. And there also should be, who knows? Maybe he's a sociopath like Stephen Miller. Maybe he's not. And it would be probably helpful for him to experience the actual consequences of what happened in these cuts, and see and actually hear and feel from the people who are suffering because of it. I guess that'd be my last thought.
I want to live in a world where there is deep shame by all the people who worked in the Trump administration. Like, I want to live in a world where 25 years from now, when people... they've got a gap in their resume because they don't want to put they were part of the Trump administration on their resume. I'm fine with shaming people, but I do struggle with people who have their their harshest critiques for the tools that are being like this kid is like, he has agency, he has accountability, and what they are doing is wrong. But like, I just think about myself at 23, if somebody had given me a White House job and been like, we're gonna, clean house on, the Department of Education and the grip that the teachers unions have on it, I would have been like, hell yeah, because I would have believed that that was a good thing to do. Now, I don't know what I would have thought about USAID, but I guarantee you at 23, I would have had so little context, so little perspective. And I think that the problem is that Elon has been treated like a genius. Like the president of the United States, everybody that was part of that thing, he's a 23-year-old kid, and you're saying he's the war criminal, as though there's not a million people above him, an entire media ecosystem that he's grown up in 10 years. The president of the United States are all telling him, like, you're doing a good thing, bud. You're doing what we want. You're carrying it out. And like, we're going to focus on this kid as the war criminal? I don't think so. He is not the problem. It is the entire culture above him, the entire political party above him. Like, it took a lot of people to raise that kid into this place.
I got enough accountability in my heart for both. All right, guys, good show. Long show, another long show. We got to get these things back down to a tight 50 minutes. Very sorry. I will not be here next week. You will have the handsome and talented Sam Stein in for me while I am at the beach. Good luck, America.